Hello my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review, and today is the final part of the Big Ed story and I'm calling this Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I hope everybody's well. I've got an interesting video for you today. I'm not just going to be covering what we saw on the actual show, I have a bit of background from social media. And guys, between you and me, I'm kind of understanding now why people say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And just from watching 90 Day Fiance, I really would like things that happen in Vegas to stay in Vegas, i.e. stop filming them TLC, we don't want to know. Please, if you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing to my channel, join us over here, it's fun. And also, please don't forget to smash that like button, and you can follow me on Twitter at Ebird Online. So without further ado, I give you Big Ed. And so the first time we catch up with Big Ed and Liz, they're on the way to Vegas. And I'm quite surprised because it's actually the first week that we've ever not had a big drum roll to see if Liz is going to turn up. Things are looking up for Ed. It seems like things are a-changing. So they've just flown in and they're sitting in the back of the taxi and they're having a chat about the imminent meeting with Tiffany, Ed's daughter. Liz tells us she's nervous about meeting Tiffany. I bet she is. What happens if Tiffany actually likes you and you've got no way to get out of being with Big Ed? Liz doesn't look like the kind of girl with a plan B. And Ed confirms that Tiffany doesn't like younger women and there may be a problem. And then Ed says you two are the same. And Liz says that's good but really weird to hear. It's beyond weird, Liz. It's absolutely odd. What father says to his prospective girlfriend, his lover, "You're like my daughter"? There's lots of words for it and weird isn't one of them. And then Liz says something which makes me really suspect her. And she said to Ed, it's a little bit soon to meet your daughter, but I guess we may as well get it over and done with. I guess at this point we have nothing to lose. Now guys, this is what makes me realise that Liz is hoping Tiffany's going to cause a problem. Liz is hoping this won't go well because she's looking for her get out of jail free card. She says there's nothing to lose at this point. Yes there is. You've been dating for just 4 weeks. A normal person would know if there's potential problems with family because of the nature of a relationship. Wouldn't you wait until you've been dating 3, 4, 5, even 6 months before you set up meetings? At least that way you'd be able to say, Tiffany, we've been dating for 6 months, it's gone really well, we've been on holiday, we've had loads of experiences, and Liz is in this for the right reasons. You can't say any of that at the moment because it's been just 4 weeks, and every one of those 4 weeks has been televised. Tiffany will know this, and so does Liz. And so the next day they go to meet Tiffany in a bar. And Tiffany walks in with her mask on, and it's just as well because it masks for just those few seconds her level of contempt for Liz. But off comes the mask, and out pops the contempt. And they sit down and begin to chat. And Tiffany says, why are you dating someone who's younger than me? And she said this directly to Ed, and then Ed repeated his problematic statement from before. Tiffany, you guys are like the same. Tiffany said, oh my god, Dad, that's so freaking weird. And she's extremely combative, and a word of warning for any of those who haven't been exposed to Tiffany as yet. She is quite an unpleasant young lady. And then Liz pipes up. I wonder what she's going to say. Is she going to fight for their relationship? Wah, wah, wah. Of course she's not. She simply says, I totally get why you don't like this relationship, and if I were in your shoes, I'd feel exactly the same. Although, I do care for your dad. Guys, she wasn't very convincing when she said that. Liz is actually encouraging Tiffany to be furious about the age difference, as if any encouragement were needed. And Tiffany says, you're at completely different phases of your life. My dad's winding down. And Ed said, I'm not winding down. Ed, ask your metabolism. I think you'll find that at least is winding down. And Tiffany said, I think my dad's going to get his heart broken. And later to production, Tiffany says, oh my god, she's supposed to be 3 years younger than me, but she looks like 10 years older than me. She looks wrecked. Yep, Tiffany came to this meeting with an intention of breaking this relationship up. That's extremely clear to me. But unsurprisingly, Ed doesn't seem to notice. And so then they part ways, and they're planning to meet up later that evening. But it wouldn't be an episode of The Single Life if Ed and Liz hadn't had a massive bust-up, and next time we see Ed, he's back in California on his own. He explains the nature of said bust-up. The meeting with Tiffany was really awkward, and after the cameras left, Liz and I got into a massive argument, and we haven't spoken since. This relationship is nothing short of a joke, and so Ed goes to meet up with his old friend Lily to talk over this so-called relationship. And they sit down for drinks, and Lily said, what's happened? What's gone wrong? And Ed said, yep, You only hear from me when things go wrong. Thus proving he's as selfish with his friends as he is with his girlfriends. At least he keeps the same energy. Ed, consistency is key. Oh Lord. And Ed explains, we all decided to go to a club and Tiffany turned up with her friends and they didn't bother speaking to us for about 30 minutes. And then at some point during the evening, Liz heard Tiffany and her friends talking crap about her. Well guys, I suppose there is quite a bit of material to go at. And he said we went back to the hotel and we had a massive argument. And then the next thing you know, I wake up the next morning and Liz had booked a flight and she went straight home and I haven't spoken to her since. And Lily says, well, what exactly did she hear? And Ed says, I don't know. And then she asks, did she tell you how she overheard them? And again, Ed said, I'm not sure. Lily, the Ebird can tell you. Tiffany doesn't hide things. Tiffany didn't like you from the word go. And Tiffany was looking to see you off, Liz. And I can imagine she was rolling her eyes, laughing at you, and just generally being a biatch. We saw her in full effect with Rose, and so we know her capabilities. Tiffany excels at being a biatch, and she doesn't care who knows. And Ed said to Lily, why is love so hard? Oh Ed, Lily can't answer that, because she knows as well as you do, this isn't love. And Ed, if you're honest with yourself, even you gave the ye old, it was just a joke, when you said to Liz, I love you, and she said, too soon, so even you know, it probably isn't love. And Lily said, well, this might just be a temporary relationship. You can walk away, you know. And Ed said, no, I can't. She's the one. Yes, you're right. She's the one to mug you off, try and take your fame, and then disappear off into the limelight. That's the one that Liz is. And Ed said, we do have a problem with communication, but I hope she'll fight for us. She'll fight, Ed, but I doubt it's going to be for us. She'll just fight. And thank the Lord for the final time this season. The next time we see Big Ed, he and Liz are meeting up to talk over their argument yet again. Ed, Liz, don't you think if you have so many arguments in such a short time, it's not meant to be? Does that cross neither of your minds? I know it crosses Liz's mind, and this is what proves to me that Liz isn't in this for real. And in Ed's back garden, Liz tells producers, Tiffany said, why can't you get someone your own age? And I saw her there with all the eye rolls and she was so rude. And I just said I wanted to go home. And when we got back to the hotel, I didn't want to talk about it. But Ed kept pushing and pushing. Liz, if you storm out of a club early, when you're with your partner's daughter, and then you get to the hotel room and you refuse to say what happened, what was said and why, I've got to for once side with Ed. He's well within his rights to ask, what the hell happened? And Ed said, when we had the argument, it was awful in the hotel room. I had a panic attack. And Liz looked really upset and she put her head in her hands and said, I'm so sorry. And Ed says to her, come and sit next to me. And they snuggle together. And then Ed asks, am I your forever? Ed, no, you're not her forever. If not Liz for the fact that she'll be about 45 when you go to meet your maker. And Liz says, you're what I want at the moment, but it's not fair to ask this sort of question so soon. And Ed tells production, seeing Liz get upset makes me think that she cares about me and she really thinks we have a future. And that's where we leave the story for this season. So what does the Ebird make to all of this? Well, as I've said in previous weeks, Ed always wants to punch far above his weight. Now it's all very well for people to say someone's better looking than you or someone's younger or you're punching, but Ed really is punching massively. He can barely reach, he's punching so high. But I feel that Ed has made a massive miscalculation. Now here's what I see. When Ed decided to go and look on international dating sites and find Rose, I think his idea was I can find somebody fit and young from another country and I'll be able to do this with the use of my American dollar, my currency and dangling a green card. Now that may have been possible with Rose and he would have had slightly more control in that situation because of course you have to get married and you have to live together and stay together for a certain duration. Now with Liz it's an entirely different scenario. The currency that Ed is using to ensnare Liz is fame. But the problem that Ed has not accounted for is that fame transfers itself without you even having to make a deposit. And once it is transferred, there's no way to pull the funds back. And therein lies his problem. His power is now at an end. It's clear that Liz has no love for Ed. Her face and body language say one thing, whilst her words say another. It's always incongruent. But Ed, the massive problem with this is, once you transfer fame, Liz has it and there's nothing you can do to take it back. So now Liz has appeared on TV. She has her fame. She has her Instagram followers. and she has her social media influence. You can't take that back. And because you can't hold this over her, she has no more use for you. And this is why I think she's now dispensing of you. And these are the reasons, Ed, why I say you need to go for someone a bit older, because that person may well want a relationship, a long-term relationship with you. You're sabotaging yourself with your choices, Ed. Liz has something out of this, and you have virtually nothing. Unless, of course, you count a little bit of hope and a couple of shags in a hotel room, which unfortunately for Ed, he probably does. Liz has a look in her eye which says, I'm far too young and far too clever to ever get old. And I don't believe she saw even a long-term relationship with Ed. I think she saw a couple of months, the TV months, and as soon as the TV cameras stopped rolling, that was the end of Liz. So guys, let me know what you think. Is Ed trading in the wrong currency? I think he is. But guys, you remember at the start of the video, there seems to be a bit more to the Las Vegas story than Ed has let on. And after stalking a few people on social media, I discovered that Liz's version of the story was markedly different. And so according to Liz, they were in the middle of Old Town Las Vegas and Ed tried to pick a fight with her. So she went back to the hotel room, and then it was Ed that actually tried to call the airline first and change Liz's ticket. So Liz said, I wasn't having any of that. I booked my own ticket and then I left in the morning. I'm inclined to believe this story because, as we all know, Ed is both a liar and a cheat, and we must never ever forget that. Ed wanders around this wonderful earth of ours just spreading pain and disappointment everywhere he goes, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. And so guys, let me know what you think. Do you think that Ed's idea to try and trade on the currency of fame is one that's doomed to fail, and if he decides to use it again, it will fail again and again and again? Ed, in order to be happy, in order to have the long-term relationship that you want, you need to choose someone who's more on your level. And also, what do you think of Liz? Was this all just one big fame grab? And did she use the whole issue with Tiffany as her get out of jail free card? So please let me know in comments down below what you think. Just before I go, please press that big red button and subscribe to the Ebird. And also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to smash that like button. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you all good day.